Brexit, and obviously people have different views and people feel quite strongly about it, people often did at least respect that we are very straightforward about our position on it, even where we disagree, that we're just upfront about what we want to see.
Before we go on, I should mention we are streaming this hour live on Facebook, on our YouTube channel, on our Twitter feed, and on the LBC website at lbc.co.uk. So you can watch us on all of those outlets should you wish. You haven't mentioned one of the main reasons why I think you got a lot of votes, and I think it was the plague on all of your houses vote for the two main parties, where people didn't really care what your stance was on anything. They just thought, well, if there's a Labour, Conservative and Liberal Democrat, I'm going to vote for the Liberal Democrats. I think that's why independents did really well in this election. I think that's why the Greens partly did well. I'm not saying that's the entire reason, but I think it was probably the majority reason. Would you go that far?
No, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, clearly some people might have had that in their minds. I mean, I don't think it was a plague on our house. But I mean, in a sense, one of the things that unites everybody in the country at the moment is they sort of look at the government and they think this government is making an absolute mess of things, and they look at the official opposition and come to the same conclusion. So I do think the country is united in its view that the government and official opposition, are in a mess and a bit of a shambles at the moment, really. And so they are looking for something else. And as the Liberal Democrats, we can be that alternative.
Let's move on to the European elections. Do you think that the Liberal Democrat surge from the council elections, it will inevitably carry through to the European elections? There's a poll out today that I think puts you at the highest you've been for some time. I think it's only 12%, but even so, you're 1% ahead of the Tories, which is quite an achievement.
And there's another one that has us at 14, again ahead of the Tories. So a couple of good polls out today. I mean, look, we take nothing for granted, and that's why we're out on the campaign trail. And I was out yesterday and Friday with Lib Dems in different parts of the country, making that case. And so I think what it does do is, amongst the public, it's a good start to the campaign, because they know the Liberal Democrats are on the up and that we're in a position of strength, having just gained 700 councillors and really had the best result in the local elections, and in fact our best result in terms of gains ever. I also think what it does is it means for the party activists, people feel that they've got a real spring in their step and they want to get out there and campaign.
And that's important, isn't it?
It is really important.
I mean, people who don't belong to political parties don't quite get that. But if your tribe is doing well, you have a spring in your step.
Yeah, and I mean, it's very easy for people to forget that the vast majority of our politics is done by volunteers, people who do not get paid for what they do, who give up their evenings, their Saturdays. I was out yesterday in 3 different parts of London, and it was sunny in some of that, but at lunchtime there was an absolute downpour, and everybody got back to the house where the organisation was happening from, absolutely dripping wet. Now, when you look at a downpour and rain and you think, well, what I really want to do right now is to go out and knock on doors, having a real motivation, that makes the difference between how many people you have out campaigning and how enthusiastically they're doing it. So it is important for motivation, and within the Lib Dems we've got that momentum at the moment.
Now, you have a copy of your manifesto which was launched with you, if you'd like to wave it for the cameras.
I have a copy of the special edition, limited edition manifesto,
which has a word which we can't say at 9 minutes past 11 on a Sunday morning, but it rhymes with Grollox.
It does.
And I just wonder, if the Brexit Party had ran a campaign headlined Grollox to Brussels, you'd accuse them of populism, wouldn't you?
I'm not sure. I mean, to be honest, I think if that was the extent of the concern about things that were being said in this election, would be in quite a positive place. But
you're a party that bangs on about grown-up politics and all the rest of it. This is the politics of the playground.
Look, we've got a sense of humour, right? I mean, I think when people look at Brexit, and frankly, whether you're a member of the public, whether you're a politician, whether you're a journalist, the sort of Groundhog Day of the same discussions that have been going on for, it feels like, a couple of years now, I think people are looking for something that occasionally is a little bit different and lightens the mood. Now, our main copy of the manifesto has got the really clear message, stop Brexit, on it, and that's clearly the slogan that's going out through the houses.
We'll come on to the substance of that in a moment, but last night I asked my Twitter followers to suggest some questions for you.
Sure.
You may have seen some of them, but let me read a couple to you. One of them says, how do we explain to children the meaning of your crass and unprofessional slogan, P.S. you are pathetic? Somebody else says, my sister says one of the biggest problems she faces in early years primary school is swearing and bad bad language. Does Joe think putting a leaflet through everyone's door with that word on is going to help this situation?
And so this is the point, right? This is not the slogan that's going in the leaflets. This is something which is a limited edition. It's a bit of fun. It's largely, social media. And of course, that tends to be people who are a bit older who are on that. And the Stop Brexit message is the key slogan that's going on the leaflets through every house. But I do say, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think this is that dreadful a word. I think if we get overly sensitive about this, then we're perhaps...
Well, what's next? Why don't you do another special edition saying F Brexit?
Well, I don't think those words are in the same category, right?
They're both words that we can't say on the programme. So, it's clearly seen as a bad word. That's what I'm saying. But
I do think if you ask most of your listeners, do they see those two words in the same category? They would not. And I also think, actually, it does resonate with the sentiment that a lot of people genuinely feel. So there's something in it, and it gets across the message, as I say, in a slightly tongue-in-cheek way, while the main message is obviously Stop Brexit.
Why is it that the Liberal Democrats over the last 3 years haven't made headway? Your opinion poll ratings have been completely static, really, sort of 8 to 10%. And yet you have had a very clear position. You are one of the few political parties to have had a clear position on Brexit. Surely you should have been mopping up the 48% well before now. Well,
look, I think that we have just had a stunning set of local election results, and that isn't a sort of flash in the pan. That is a continuation.
We don't know that yet, do we?
Well, no. We made 75 gains last year at the local election results, and if you look at by-elections, we have won seats from Labour, from the Conservatives, from the SNP, from UKIP. We have been winning in those local contests in all different parts of the country. Interestingly, in Remain and Leave areas. So the Liberal Democrat fight back is absolutely real. You're right in terms of the kind of national poll rating. There hasn't been as much of a surge as clearly I would have wanted.
That's what I'm trying to tease out of you.
And in a sense, I think there's a sort of paralysis a little bit in terms of certainly what's happening at the national level. But now that we are getting to, if you like, the business end of Brexit, I think it is becoming on a day-to-day basis
I hope
much
you're right
clearer.
on that, but I see little evidence of it.
Well, I think we're getting towards a scenario where it could be stopped, which clearly you don't want, and I do.
What I'm driving at, though, is it because Vince Cable just hasn't had the kind of inspirational leadership that is needed to galvanise support in these circumstances?
No, as I say, we have been increasing our elected base. We have been winning in elections and in by-elections, and we have gone up in the polls. Actually, if you look at where we were in the 2017 election, we are consistently higher than we were back in 2017. So there has been an increase. We're not back to where we were 10 years ago yet, and so there's clearly more to do.
But as deputy leader, how much of the blame do you personally take for that?
Well, I certainly take the view that I want to get stuck in and improve the situation and get our message out there. It's not always easy, and I'm not saying this is an excuse, but we've got lots more members, and it's about motivating that for us to get out there. And these European elections are a great opportunity to do that, to get our Lib Dem message across. And I think on Brexit, that message is resonating now in a way that 18 months ago, I think a lot more of the population actually had some optimism that Brexit might actually be able to be a success. And I think people now are looking at it, seeing a complete shambles, and looking at our consistent message to say that we think remaining is the better idea. And now you see Remain consistently ahead in the opinion polls, significantly so. And so,
It's not showing in the polls in the European elections, though, is it? If you add up the Remain supporting parties, they don't get anywhere near where the Brexit Party and UKIP are.
Well, if you look at where the polls are on actually whether or not people think we should leave or remain, you have to go back to September 2017 to find Leave ahead in the polls.
Depends on the question, really, that's asked, doesn't it? Because a lot of these polls are commissioned by pro-Remain
I'm talking about the polls that are listed on John Curtis's website, and I think we all recognise that he is neutral analyst, and he has this fabulous website which just lists all of the polls that have taken place. The poll of polls of the last 6 months shows Remain 8 points ahead.
So why isn't that reflected in the European election polls?
Well, some of these people have clearly, not yet decided to vote for unambiguously Remain parties. That's our job in the next 2 weeks, to make sure people understand that if they want to remain in the EU, they need to vote Liberal Democrat at these elections as the strongest, biggest and most consistent party of Remain.
Right, we will have more from Jo Swinson in just a moment. Don't forget you can watch us on Facebook, on the LBC Twitter feed, on YouTube and via the LBC website at lbc.co.uk. It's 16 minutes past 11.
This is LBC.
Imagine, if you can, days that get longer by the minute and warmer by the mile. Picture the rotation of an infinite sky becoming bejeweled with stars as the sun slinks away into the sea. Now, turn up the music and dance until dawn. Sail beyond your imagination. The Transatlantic Crossing by Cunard. Discover more at cunard.com. APTA and ATOL protected.
Alexa, who is the best English rugby player of all time?
Good question. My favourite is Johnny Wilkinson.
Really? Oh, nice one. Alexa, who's the most popular English rugby player of all time?
Definitely Johnny Wilkinson.
Alexa, I love you.
That's really sweet.
Take out Vitality Life Insurance today and we'll give you an Amazon Echo Dot, plus an Amazon Smart Plug. And to find your inner athlete, enable the Alexa Vitality skill for fitness and nutrition tips. To get your Amazon bundle today, just search Vitality Life. Vitality. Positively different. New member offer available on certain Vitality plans until 30th of June 2019. Minimum monthly premiums, terms and conditions apply.
Block management. 2 very simple words. But what do they actually mean? Well, there's budget approval for starters, then service charge invoices, health and safety paperwork, cleaning, gardening, maintenance, inspections, contracts, insurance, emergency call-outs, and a whole lot more besides.
So for complete block management solutions, just remember 3 simple letters: ABC. ABC Estates will take care of all your day-to-day management, leaving you as happy as Larry. See abcestates.co.uk or call 0800 888 6688.
You're tired, tatty and so downtrodden. You've got to go.
Ready to get your flooring soaring? Get to B&Q. We've a range of beautiful wood effect laminates at great prices, including Geelong grey oak effect laminate for £7 per square metre. You can do it when you B&Q it. £17.27 per pack.
Psst. Did you know that Pimlico Plumbers have an utterly fabulous 24-hour service for plumbing, heating, drains, roofing, electrics, appliances, carpentry and building? Whatever your predicament, Pimlico Plumbers can send a friendly face to your door within the hour. Shh! And just between us, their work even comes with a 12-month guarantee. They aren't just any old tradesmen, they're Pimlico Plumbers, and they're always available on 0207 928 8888 or at pimlicoplumbers.com.
Sail beyond your imagination with days that get longer by the minute and warmer by the mile. Discover more at cunard.com. APTA and ATOL protected.
Leading Britain's conversation. Iain Dale. Tweet at LBC.
90 minutes past 11. Jo Swinson is here, Deputy Leader of the Liberal Democrats. We're going to be taking your calls shortly, 0345 6060 973. And you can watch us on our Facebook page, Twitter feed at the LBC website at lbc.co.uk or our YouTube channel. We'll come back to Brexity things in a moment. You as a party have been very critical of the Conservatives for letting people accused of Islamophobia back into the Conservative Party. 2 days ago, your party let Sir David or Lord Steele back into the party. He'd been suspended because he had admitted that he'd known about Cyril Smith's paedophilia activities. How can you justify letting him back in?
Well, it's not my decision. And we have an investigation process that is underway, so it's very difficult to comment on it when that is the situation.
Well, it isn't anymore because...
No, it is. The investigation
but why
is
has he been let back in then?
I genuinely don't know.
But, sorry, you're a Scottish MP. This is a decision of the Scottish Liberal Democrats. Yeah. You are the most senior Liberal Democrat in Scotland. You're Deputy Leader of the party and you're telling me that you don't know.
Yeah, I genuinely am. I am.
Well, you ought to know,
I'm not an office bearer of the party.
What's the point of being Deputy Leader if you don't know about these things?
Look, it's a decision. So the decision has not been made on what will happen. The investigation is ongoing, and that investigation needs to happen. And if I am talking about that, that can potentially prejudice it.
Do you think he should have been let back in then? You can have an opinion on that.
Well, I'm
you had an opinion.
Surprised.
You had an opinion originally that he should be suspended.
Yeah, and I don't really understand why that wouldn't be the case for the whole thing. But that said, I'm not part of whatever discussions are happening in terms of legalistic
So to be clear,
processes.
you do not agree with the decision to let him back in now?
Well, I think it seems surprising.
Why can't you go the whole hog? You're being slightly...
Well, no, it's a live investigation, Ian, right?
My question has nothing to do with the investigation.
Well, no, but my
question
point
is, should he have been let back in?
My
And
point
you're
is,
kind of saying yes, but you can't quite bring yourself to do it.
No, I'm saying that I don't really understand why that's happened when it is a live investigation, because I would have thought that it would have been something which would have remained in place, such a suspension for the entirety of the investigation. That would have seemed to me the obvious thing. So equally, I therefore think there's probably something about this that I don't know, given that it is a live investigation.
Have you inquired?
Well, I've not. I've been out on the campaign trail in the last 2 days, so I haven't had that conversation.
But you are deputy leader of the party. If I was deputy leader of a party, I'd want to make damn sure that I knew what was going on these sorts of things. So you could answer questions like this.
When you have a disciplinary process, that is rightly done separately. It is not done at the decision of the leader of the party or the deputy leader of the party. There is a process that is laid down in the Constitution which sets out how members will be treated when there's a disciplinary process against them, and that will be gone through, and that is going through that process.
But when the Tories come out with this argument on their Islamophobia issues, you're the first to criticise them, saying, no, these people should be slung out.
Well, and the investigation is what is required to be able to gather the evidence, and that process has to take its course.
Leadership. I know this is a question you get asked in every single interview, and I'm sure you're not going to give me an exclusive, but Vince Cable has said he's standing down. I presume that's going to be after the European elections when he'll formally announce it. I'm not even going to bother asking you, are you going to stand? But I will ask you, have you made a decision whether you're going to stand or not? See, that was one you weren't expecting, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is what I wasn't expecting. Look, my focus right now, rightly,
no,
is the European elections.
I know you're going to say that, but have you made a decision one way or the other?
I have made a decision, but it's not going to be something I want to get in the way of the European elections. This is a great opportunity for us to get our Lib Dem message out to stop Brexit, and those questions are rightly for another day, not very far in the future. And obviously, at that point, very happy to come back and chat to you.
There has been a bit of a whispering campaign against you in the Liberal Democrats, hasn't there? What do you make of that? Because to me, you've always been seen, or I've always seen you as one of the more popular members of the Liberal Democrats, a sort of human being, not just giving politician answers all the time, though you let me down on the last one a little bit there. But why do you think? Because when Vince announced that he was going, a Liberal Democrat of my acquaintance immediately DM'd me and said ABJ. Do you know what that stands for?
I can imagine, because I remember...
Anyone but Joe. And I was thinking, what? Why would you say that?
Well, if you think way back to the 1990s when Paddy stood down, there was an ABC campaign, right? So, and yet Charles Kennedy was arguably our most successful leader ever. He, took the Lib Dems to 63 MPs. So, there will always be, people in different camps supporting different individuals, but I'm pretty relaxed. I've got a good relationship with colleagues.
Do you think that part of the issue is that you will, because you were a minister in the coalition government, that there is it's a bit like if in the Labour Party, if you're a Blairite nowadays, it's the politics that dare not speak its name. If you're a coalition minister, you're kind of associated with the fact that the 2015 election didn't go very well.
Well, you're right, the 2015 election didn't. And that was a great learning process, actually. For all that we all like to win all the time, actually, I think that when you lose is often when you reflect and you learn more. And having a couple of years out of politics, albeit unplanned, was certainly a good experience. Look, we were in coalition government, and some of what we did was really positive for the country, and there were mistakes too. And in any government, there are challenges. Most of our members have joined us since 2015. So, this thought that in some way the coalition
Bring back Tim Farron then.
Well, but what I'm saying is that, the thought that coalition is seen as some kind of huge negative. I mean, that's when actually as Liberal Democrats we were able to introduce same-sex marriage, we were able to cut income tax for people on low earnings, we were able to introduce shared parental leave, to put more money into education for the poorest pupils. The list of our achievements, if I could talk about it for the rest of the programme, you probably wouldn't let me. It is very significant. And if you get into politics, because you want to do things. You want to change the world. You're not happy with how things are. And so the opportunity we had, I think, was an important one. And, by all means, we should learn, and we do learn from mistakes that we made. But I think I've got no time for this approach that we kind of somehow just don't talk about the fact that we were in government and that we made a lot of changes for the country for the better.
When you voted Remain and 16 million other people voted for Remain, what did you think they were voting for?
To stay in the European Union, and on the basis of the deal that we had as members of the European Union.
Do you think they were voting for the status quo?
Well, I think that I've always been a fan of reforming the EU, and I think that there is more that can be done, but I think they were voting to stay in the European Union on the terms that we had. I don't think I would interpret that as people saying that they would never want anything in the European Union to change.
My point is that when people on your side of the argument accuse Brexiteers of not really knowing what they were voting for, the same can be said on the other side, can't it? Because we were told that there would be no European army during the referendum campaign. We were told that we would never have to join the euro. We know now that there are lots of other countries that want to get, I suppose we knew at the time that they want to get into the EU. There would have been movements towards ever closer union. Therefore, you can't actually say what the European Union was going to look like in 10 years' time any more than Brexit voters could say, well, I voted for this particular type of Brexit.
Well, on many of those issues, actually, as the UK, we have opt-outs and vetoes, so we could be confident that we would have a say over those things. And I think what we did have was, this is what our membership is, some clarity over that deal. I think the confusion on the Leave side was summed up when you had Theresa May just saying Brexit means Brexit. And the fact that today you have a Brexit deal that is being promoted by the Prime Minister and by many other members of the government and Conservative MPs, many of whom backed Leave. And yet there are other people in the Conservative Party who backed Leave who disagree with that deal. I mean, that crystallises the fact that there are different types of Brexit and there is no agreement even amongst Conservative MPs on what Brexit should mean. So the suggestion that amongst all 70 million people...
I accept that, but all I'm asking you to accept is that on the other side of the argument, the same applies.
I think what's different on the other side of the argument is that we had the specific deal of our current European Union membership, which is what people were being asked to continue and to remain with. Again, I grant you, and I said, I wouldn't therefore take it that all of those 16 million would never want any reform to the European Union, because I certainly voted Remain and, the things I would like to change about it. But I do think there was the specificity of, this is our deal, this is what our membership is, should we keep this or not?
What should be on the ballot paper of a second referendum?
Well, I think we should have the Prime Minister's deal, or if there is some... not that I think it's likely, some positivity that comes out of the negotiations with the Labour Party, and there is something therefore that is tweaked in terms of a deal between Corbyn and May. But, the Brexit deal, as has been negotiated, should be on the ballot paper, and I obviously think that we should have Remaining on the ballot paper.
How could you have Remain on when the result of the first referendum hasn't actually been implemented? Surely the logic would be deal or no deal.
I don't think so. I think no deal is so catastrophically damaging that I find it hard to see how you'd want to put that on the ballot paper at all. And I mean, even the Prime Minister. And I find it strange that she got us to this place of sort of talking up the idea of no deal by saying,
well, she hasn't
no deal
now,
is better than a bad deal. Well, when push came to shove, eventually she couldn't quite bring herself to do it. But, she had been a Home Secretary, right, for 6 years. She understands the security impact of this, what that would mean for our country in terms of ability to keep us safe. And yet she seemed to be very recklessly, in my opinion.
But
happy
do you
to
not
leave that
think,
out
though,
there.
that if there is to be a second referendum, surely everyone in the country has to buy into the questions that are put on the ballot paper? And if you just go for what you've suggested, having the Prime Minister's deal versus Remain, there'll be a lot of people that think it's a bit rigged, because we all know that her deal isn't very popular. So people will see that as the people's vote end of the argument, trying to rig the result.
No, look, I've said that to me seems the most obvious choice. What my sort of bottom line is, if you like, is there needs to be no unicorns on that ballot paper. So there needs to be nothing that can't be absolutely delivered.
What about having
and
Leave
we
versus
need to have
Remain? What about having Leave versus Remain, and then if Leave wins, then you have deal or no deal as a supplementary question?
It's interesting. So, ultimately, the Electoral Commission would set the question as an independent external body, and Parliament would have to approve it. So there would be different things put forward. Last week I met with David Liddington, and I think these types of suggestions are some that the government has considered in terms of how that could be done. From my perspective, it is absolutely vital.
They are talking to you about a second referendum.
Well, we went to make the case to say, you want a way out of this mess, have a people's vote, and we have said throughout this, we will vote. If a referendum is attached, we will vote for the deal to make sure that actually gets through, so that we can get to the stage of having a people's vote.
David Liddington, the de facto Deputy Prime Minister, is talking to you about a second referendum.
Well, he mentioned the work that they had, the things they had considered.
So they've already been doing work on it. That I think is quite shocking in many ways, given the fact that it is government policy not to have one.
Well, I think from my perspective, what their plan B is at the moment pretty unclear. We're in this shambles, and I think the government should be looking at the different ways out. And to me, it's pretty obvious that having a people's vote is the obvious way out of this total impasse that we're currently in, and it's not doing the country any good. We do need a way out. We need to find a resolution to this, and putting it back to the people in a people's vote to have the final say seems the right way forward.
We're going to come to calls in a moment. 0345 6060 973. If you have a question for Jo Swinson, the Deputy Leader of the Liberal Democrats. It's 11:32, and Philip Chrysikos has the news headlines.
Tony Blair claims both Labour and the Conservative parties could be swept away in the continuing row over Brexit. The former Labour Prime Minister says he believes a silent revolution could happen if the UK leaves the European Union without a deal. A 15-year-old girl has died after collapsing in North Yorkshire. She was found in a car park in Northallerton. Police believe she may have taken the drug MDMA. The National Crime Agency is warning significant new investment is needed to deal with serious and organised crime in Britain. It claims it kills more UK citizens than terrorism, war and natural disasters combined. LBC weather, dry, warm and sunny, a high of 16 degrees.
This is LBC.
Choose Swell Heating and you get a lot more than an efficient boiler from top manufacturers like Quista Bosch. There are warranties of up to 10 years, experts to install your boiler, a 24/7 call centre and specialist advice on smart heating technology. Visit swellheating.com. Rely on us to keep you warm.
We're coming to you live with this year's stunning spring collection. First, here's the life-ready Vauxhall Crossland X with a stylish two-tone roof, followed by the dynamic Mocha X, striking LED headlights, and the bold, powerful Grandland X, simply stunning in topaz blue. Top models, fabulous offers. The Vauxhall Network Q approved used SUV event. Try them on for size from the 10th to the 31st of May at your local Vauxhall Network Q retailer. Search Network Q. Features and availability may differ. Participating retailers only. T's and C's and exclusions apply.
Well, it started when I was boxing when I was a teenager, and I was knocked out completely and I lost front teeth.
At Darwood and Tanner, implant patients come to us for many different reasons, but they all leave with the same opinion.
The staff at Darwood and Tanner were delightful. They made me feel really, really comfortable, and at no time was I left without somebody inquiring as to how do you feel.
Download your information pack at darwoodandtanner.co.uk today. Your smile is our healthy obsession.
Our house is too tall. Our house is a funny shape. The walls are too thick. If you're constantly making excuses for your weak Wi-Fi signal, get the new BT Complete Wi-Fi Guarantee. Clever Wi-Fi discs extend your smart hub signal to every room, whatever size and shape your house is. It's $39.99 a month on an 18-month contract with a $29.99 setup fee. BT customers can upgrade with BT Plus. BT, be there.
New customers, CPI increase starting 2020. $44.49 a month from month 19, up to 3 discs to guarantee Wi-Fi or £20 off your bill.
I know who phoned home. I know how to dance like Carlton. I know which TV presenter started out in a broom cupboard. And I know how to do the big fish, little fish. But I don't know my state pension.
Check your state pension and see how you can build on it with a workplace or other pension. Get to know your pension at yourpension.gov.uk.
Right now, your work devices are at risk from data loss, hackers and misuse. And if your website or systems are targeted, it could have a huge impact on your finances and reputation. Today, CyberCovered could protect your business with award-winning cyber insurance from just £9 a month, helping to provide expert support and offset the extensive costs following an incident. Get a fast quote and buy online at cybercovered.com.
Iain Dale on LBC.
It's 11:36 on LBC. You can watch us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, the LBC website at lbc.co.uk. Joe Swinson is here to take your calls. So let's go straight to Christine, who is in the lovely town of Southend-on-Sea. Hello, Christine.
Hello there.
Hi, what's your question?
Well, I just wanted to tell Joe, this is Southend-on-Sea, we had a Conservative council, and we've got an issue going on with a development that they want to do. And even though we've signed petitions and we've been to meetings, the Conservatives were still adamant that this was going to go through. So we had an agenda to get the Conservatives out of the council. And people just voted, we just voted Labour, Lib Dems, Green Party, just to get the Conservatives out of the council. And we've managed to do it. And bearing in mind that this part of the country was a mainly Leave vote, so I actually voted Lib Dems. And I'm a Leave voter, but I actually voted them just to get the Conservatives out of this council, which we've managed to do. I think the Lib Dems got 2 or 3 seats. I'm not absolutely certain.
So you're rather, Christine, you're rather backing up my point that some of it was a protest vote, depending on where it was.
That's what I'm trying to say, yes.
Well, thank you, Christine, first of all, for voting Liberal Democrat. And I'm not sure if your area was one of the ones in Southend that got a Lib Dem councillor, but hopefully, if so, then you're going to have a great local representative. And as I said, I think often local issues were very much in the forefront of people's minds, and when you have, as it sounds like, an administration that has lost touch and not listening to what people are wanting in terms of the local area, whether that's on, as I say, transport or whether it's on development issues, and then the point of our local democracy is that people can make a different choice.
Okay, Christine, thank you. Let's go to Carol in Newmarket. Hello, Carol.
Morning.
Morning.
The question is, I was listening before, and if I've got it right, the young lady said about working to stop Brexit, and there's lots of other people that are doing that as well. Does that mean that if they're working to stop Brexit, they're working against the democratic referendum and working against the will of the people?
Well, look, Carol, I've been very straightforward about my views on Brexit since before 2016, and at the general election in 2017, when I got a democratic mandate, I was elected by my constituents to be the MP. I was very clear in all of my election literature. 2 key things. First of all, I would work to keep Scotland in the United Kingdom, because I think that we are stronger together as a family of nations, and also to keep the UK in the European Union. So, I totally appreciate that there are people, possibly like yourself and others, who take a different view, but I'm straightforward. I think our best future is within the European Union, and I want to do what I can to keep those benefits of EU membership for us, but for future generations too.
And I understand that 100%, but there must have been a percentage of your constituents who voted to leave.
Yeah, there were.
What about them?
Well, for any Member of Parliament, they aren't going to be able to be in agreement with 100% of their constituents on this, or actually, frankly, most other issues. My constituency was very strongly in favour of staying in the EU. About 3/4 roughly of my constituents voted to stay in the European Union, and across Scotland it was 62%. So, it is, I think, our best future. And
did you vote to trigger Article 50?
No, I wasn't an MP at the time, but Liberal Democrats did not. I think that was a huge mistake of the Prime Minister, regardless of what you think about Brexit, to trigger Article 50 without a clear plan of even what your negotiating position was. I mean, Article 50 gave 2 years for negotiations, and the Conservative government, as a cabinet, didn't even agree a negotiating position for more than a year after triggering Article 50. And I think that's unforgivable. That's partly why we're in this absolute mess, because they haven't even been able to agree amongst themselves around the cabinet table. So, of course, we've not gone into those negotiations with a clear position. I think
Carol's basic point is an interesting one, because I've heard it a lot from people who say, well, fine, I respect your views. You argue to stay in the EU, but surely the fact that the referendum was won by the other side means that you do have to respect the result, and you're not respecting the result, are you?
Well, I do respect that people voted, and I think it's right that the government has gone and has, had some negotiations to say what should happen. Now, I do think they should not have triggered Article 50 without having a clear plan of what Britain's negotiating position should be. But we've gone and done that to show then, OK, this is what Brexit will look like. Now, when there is good reason to think that the will of the people has changed, and as I say, if you look at the opinion polls, then you have to go back a long way to find a majority for leave. And this is not something like an election where, in 3 or 4 or 5 years' time, whenever the next election will be, you can just, make a different decision. This is something which will affect our futures for generations to come. It's such a huge decision. If people don't genuinely still want to leave on the terms that now have been negotiated.
If there was another referendum and Leave won it, what do you do then? Do you say, well, yeah, I hear what you say, but let's have another one?
Well, no, I think the difference is that on the basis of a referendum that is on a specific deal, and that's why I said I don't want any unicorns on the ballot paper, because we can't have something that everybody projects, a sort of blank sheet of paper that everybody projects their own version of what they would like to see onto it, even if that can't actually be delivered. We need something that is specific, that people are voting on to say, no, this Brexit. Do you want this Brexit?
All right, Carol, thank you very much. Alan's in Matlock. Hello, Alan.
Hi, how's it going?
All right, what's your question, please?
Well, as a Remain voter, I'm a postal voter, so I've already had my polling card and slip and things. I have 3 parties to choose from that are Remain, whereas the Brexit voters have one party to vote from. So I'm wondering how they have Brexit
and UKIP.
Okay, yeah, but everyone's more in favour of one than the other, from what I see. It's just if the Remain's campaigners, like the person in front of you, wants to get a majority of people for their party, then surely they should have joined together as one thing rather than splitting the vote between 3 different parties. The numbers just don't add up. You're just going to be losing out on 3 parties compared to 2 parties, as you say.
Well, I understand your frustration with this, Alan, and we had hoped to be able to have that sort of alliance of parties under the one banner, and had some initial conversations about that, but that wasn't reciprocated, and it would have practically been difficult in the time available, because what you have to do is set up a new party. So we're in the situation where, if you want to make your vote count very significantly to say you want to stop Brexit, then obviously my advice to you is to vote Liberal Democrat as the strongest and biggest Remain party.
But why didn't you create what Heidi Allen called a Remain alliance? Because it would have then been very clear. It would have been a kind of second referendum, wouldn't it?
Well, I think had we had more time, that may well have happened. We didn't know these elections were going to take place. We had been promised, of course, they weren't going to take place. And in terms of the registration of that with the Electoral Commission, then it was not something that was going to be able to be done in time. But and as I say, we'd hoped that might be possible.
The Brexit Party managed to get all of their candidates together with 2 weeks' notice. I don't understand why that wouldn't have been possible.
Well, they'd already registered
as
a political party.
And to be fair,
so what?
Well, that's what you need to have done.
Change UK had done that, and they were approved. The Electoral Commission were never going to not approve Change UK as a political party. So these discussions could have been held since February, but clearly they weren't.
Not longer.
Well, you couldn't have done it longer, Alan, because Change UK, the independent group, were only formed in
what I'm
February.
saying is, it's the Liberal Democrats should have been looking at this like 3 years ago, going, okay, we don't want this to happen, so what are we going to do when these
To be
European
fair, I
elections
don't think any... I mean, I never imagined that these European elections would have happened, even going back as far as sort of February, I would have thought. I think it only became a realistic possibility probably during March. So, but I still don't buy the argument that wasn't enough time to do it, Joe.
Well, I mean, as I say, we had the discussion. Change UK were not up for it, and at that point, it's not something which is then worth going into a lot more detail about if that's not going to happen. But I do get the practical point that it would have been challenging. We tried to actually work together to support a joint candidate in the Peterborough by-election,
That went well.
Well, I mean, the discussions were much more positive in terms of agreement between the parties, but obviously it didn't come off in the end. But again,
Let's be honest here. You want to see Change UK extinguished, don't you? And you see the possibility of doing that now, because I would say it's a possibility they won't get any MEPs whatsoever, in which case a lot of people say, well, what's the point of them? Why don't they all just join the Liberal Democrats?
Well, I'm always up for more people joining the Liberal Democrats. So, anyone listening who wants to stop Brexit, please do join the Lib Dems.
And you would welcome the 11 Change UK MPs on board if they decided en bloc, look, this hasn't worked, we'll throw a lot in with the Lib Dems. You'd have them all.
I think if people want to join the Lib Dems, then we want people that share our liberal values, and we do share a lot of values, and we are working with people from other parties, Change UK, but also Caroline Lucas. And actually, people from the Conservative and Labour parties who are very much not in the same viewpoint as Jeremy Corbyn and Theresa May on these issues. There is a lot of cross-party working that's happening at Westminster.
We'll take more of your calls in a moment. It's 11:46.
Coming up at 12 on LBC, Majid Nawaz.
More and more people are making their millions from dating apps, video games and social media platforms and traditional business. Should anyone be worth £1 billion?
Majid Nawaz on LBC.
Unlock the city with the new Range Rover Evoque. Know your side streets. From your inner city beats. Know your underbelly and where to fill your belly.
Your lamb, madam.
Know your north from your south. Live for the city with the new Range Rover Evoque. Land Rover, above and beyond.
So much confusion. Half-price carbonara with car insurance? Do I want another meal or just a good deal? Confused.com give you £20 free Texaco fuel with your car insurance. A free gift that makes sense? It's that easy. £20 free Texaco fuel with your car insurance. Don't be confused. Be Confused.com. Full T's and C's online. Scottish postcode exceptions and conditions apply. Offer ends 31st of May.
In the big savings event at Oak Furnitureland, find solid hardwood furniture that's delivered free and all with a big saving. There's a store near you. Ends Sunday.
iZettle is the mobile card reader and till system for your tablet and phone. It's the fast-moving, trend-setting, dream-chasing, mind-bending, life-changing, hip-shaking, jaw-dropping, pulse-racing, show-stopping, stress-busting, space-saving, eye-opening, skyrocketing, business-boosting, profit-pushing, finger-tapping, ceiling-smashing, record-breaking way to run your business. For a better way to take card payments and start, run and grow your business, visit iZettle.com.
Some things don't have to be new to feel special. Like an approved Audi. And at the Audi approved event, selected cars come with 2 years warranty, 2 years roadside assistance, and 2 services when you buy with Solutions Personal Contract Plan at 10.9% APR representative. It's an approved Audi, with a little extra on top. Now on for a limited time at your local Audi centre. Audi. Vorsprung durch Technik. Offer ends 31st of May, only available on used Audis aged 24 to 60 months. Excludes electric vehicles S, R8 and RS models. 18 and over, subject to status. Indemnities may be required. Covers 2 scheduled services only. Warranty valid for vehicles up to 100,000 miles. Audi Finance. Visit audi.co.uk.
Join me on my journey through time. Where shall we go, sir? Ancient Egypt. Caesar's Rome. No, my kitchen about an hour ago. Told the wife her new hairstyle was a brave choice, didn't I? Oh.
Everyone makes mistakes, but with Paddy Power's money back specials, they don't cost you as much. This weekend, get money back as a free bet if Mane scores for Liverpool against Wolves. Paddy Power, home of the money back special. Selected markets only. Applies to first bet on all losing goal scorer, correct score and what odds Paddy bets on the match. Max refund £10 as a free bet. T's and C's apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
So, you've received a notice from HMRC inquiring into your tax affairs. Any investigation is likely to be disruptive to your business and costly, especially if you don't get the right help. At Barnes Rofe, we recommend that you seek advice straight away. Our specialist tax team will support you no matter what the issue is. For a free confidential chat, contact the tax experts at barnesrofe.com. Barnes Rofe, clever accountants for business.
Iain Dale, text 84850. This is LBC.
More of your questions to Joe Swinson coming up. Mark is in Palmer's Green. Hello, Mark.
Very good morning to you both.
Morning.
I know you must be absolutely sick and tired of talking about this, Joe, but I had a nice little chat with my Polish neighbour and friend the other day. He was standing there with his beep to Brexit T-shirt on, and I was standing there with my Leave Means Leave baseball cap on. Now, we had a perfectly calm and sensible conversation on the subject of, you've guessed it, Brexit, and we agreed to disagree on that subject a very long time ago. Now, it's perfectly fine, I suppose, for a supporter of Remain or Liberal Democrats or whatever to be wearing a beep to Brexit T-shirt.
You're doing very well, Mark. Don't let me down.
I was told.
Yeah, I bet
very
you were.
careful at this time in the morning. But but surely a political party needs to be above that sort of thing. I know it's not the most offensive word in the dictionary, but my question to Joe is simply, what were you thinking? Because I'm so surprised that particularly Savint's Cable, who actually I like and respect, because at least we all know where he stands on the subject of Brexit. You know, he's being totally honest, unlike the Labour Party and the Tories. But this is beneath him. This is beneath your party.
Well,
do you regret it? Do you regret it?
No, I don't regret it, Mark. And do you know what? You know, we have been talking about our view on Brexit, probably more than might have happened, otherwise. Look, I think, as I say, it's a limited edition manifesto cover. It's something which, therefore, is not going through every letterbox, and it is a bit of fun on social media.
When you say limited edition, does that mean you printed about 10 of them?
I don't know the print run, but I do know that the main manifesto cover says "Stop Brexit," not "Beep to Brexit," so yeah, it's therefore it is a bit of fun.
Can you not do a beep like Mark did? It would be much more
his
entertaining.
beeps were better. I get that, but
I've been practicing.
but yeah, so I think it is something a bit more lighthearted to lighten the mood. The other thing I just wanted to say to Mark was, look. Hearing about you talking with your friend, having an entirely different view on Brexit, and doing so clearly with a smile on your face, agreeing to disagree. I think that's what we need more of in this country. I think we have lost the art of disagreeing well. People can be in favour of Brexit, and I can wholeheartedly disagree with them, but recognise they're doing so from a position of them genuinely thinking.
Lots more group hugs. That can be official Lib Dem policy.
But, genuinely recognising that somebody can take a different view, even on this huge issue, but do so from a position that they genuinely think that's the right thing to do, rather than ascribing, negative motives to somebody just because you disagree.
Just final word on this. Mark, thank you for your call. Someone tweeted me the other day and said, so Nigel Farage is trying to deliver on a democratic vote and the Liberal Democrats are swearing at voters. What does that tell us?
Well,
it's an interesting point, isn't it? I mean, you may think it's facetious, but it does actually reflect reality.
I think, as I say, I think if the thing that we bleep out is the worst thing in the election campaign, I would be delighted. But we're actually in a situation where we've got, one candidate, talking about whether or not he would rape a Labour MP. In terms of the tone of our public debate, I do think
that's a UKIP candidate, not a Lib Dem candidate. When you said we've got one,
as in the country.
I thought I'd rescue you there.
Thank you, Iain. But there's just we've got a. There's a bigger level of challenge in terms of what's happening to our discourse. If you think about during the referendum, the breaking point poster that Farage stood in front of, there's a genuine issue about hate being encouraged through dialogue, and I think a slightly cheeky slogan is not
Trevor
the main
says,
problem.
Ask Joe, is it okay for me to swear at Lib Dem canvassers when they come knocking?
Well, I genuinely encourage people to be friendly, but I tell you what, on occasion I have experienced that, myself, and probably I have experienced a lot worse than the word that we're talking about here.
Someone says, how can you claim to be the biggest Remain party when the SNP has more MPs and more members than you?
Well, we've got 2,500 councillors. If you look at the polls, if you look at actually where we're standing and where people have the ability to vote, we're actually a truly national party right across the UK.
Phil is in Finchley. Hello, Phil.
Oh, hi, Ian. Just wanted to say, Joe, that I'm an ex-Leave voter. I voted Leave with a number of my colleagues and some members of my family. Not all my family, but and. We're fed up with it all. We've never voted Liberal Democrat, but we would vote Remain, but not Remain as it was. If you came out with a message sort of like Remain but Reform or something like that, if you said, we want to stay in the European Union, but there are lots of issues, particularly, we become more informed now, and I'd like to thank Ian for some of this, because I used to believe that we didn't control our borders, and clearly we do. EU citizens, I now understand that if they don't work within 3 to 6 months, we can ask them to go home. I never knew that, and many other things. But the issue is that I don't like the European Union or many aspects of it. But over the last 2 years or whatever it is, I've become more and more aware, and I now would vote Remain, but I don't want Remain as it was. I want things changed. So if you came out with the message Remain but Reform, I think you'll suck up a lot of votes, particularly where I work.
You kind of have done that, haven't you, Joe?
Well, I think earlier on
we don't hear that. I mean, I was at work.
Well, she did say it. I don't know if you've been listening the whole hour, Phil, but Joe did actually say that earlier on.
Again, Phil, listening to Ian's show is the way to get informed, and I think it is good that we've had, in some ways, we've had a stronger, more informed debate in many ways since leaving than we did in the very short campaign in the run up to the referendum. And it was the negotiations that David Cameron had finished in the February, and we were voting in the June. So there's a lot of complex issues at stake here. And if you look at issues like, for example, the Northern Ireland border, how much airtime did that get during 2016? So I think it's it's positive to be able to air these issues, and I do think the EU should be reformed. But I think we're better to stay in it and work to make that happen.
Phil, thank you very much. Gary is in Glasgow. Gary, if you could be brief, I'd be grateful, because we've only got less than 2 minutes left.
Yeah, sure. I just want to quickly ask Jo why she doesn't support Scotland's right to self-determination. There was 100,000 on the streets of Glasgow last week, and she could have been amongst them. I know she supports the union. I support a union, and it's a union of equals, not subordinates. And I want to know why she would not support a union of equals.
Well, look, I'm as I say, I stood in 2017. My view is absolutely clear and always has been on the basis of wanting Scotland in the UK and the UK in the EU. And my reasons for wanting Scotland in the UK and the UK in the EU are actually the same. I think we are better off when we work with others, where we are able to tackle challenges, whether that's issues of climate change or dealing with inequality or fighting terrorism. We're stronger when we do that with other countries working together. And we do that within the United Kingdom. And I think when you look at the chaos of trying to break down a union that we have been a member of for 40 years and quite how difficult that is, I shudder to think about the chaos that would be created by trying to break up the 300-year union of Scotland within the United Kingdom, and how successful that has been. So I continue to want to have Scotland with its place in the UK and the UK in the EU, and I think that's consistent.
Gary, thank you for that. Final text from Peter in Kent. Ian, I am not your fan, but I am a regular listener. Never thought I would say this, but thank you. I now know who I'm going to vote for, the Liberal Democrats, so that Jo Swinson can be sent off with a spring in her step after that text.
Thank you very much.
Jo, thank you very much indeed. I'm sure we'll see you again, possibly doing a leadership contest. You never know. She's looking very Delphic. Right, I will be back tomorrow from 7 o'clock in the evening on LBC. Hope you'll join me then. It's Mental Health Awareness Week next week. We have an hour-long panel on that subject at 8. Coming up at 3, it's Ian Payne, but next on LBC, it's Majid Nawaz.
Thank you, Ian. Hello, Joe. Coming up, a health charity urging GPs to carry on prescribing opioids was set up with funding from a maker of the powerful drugs. Is Big Pharma destroying lives? Before that, anti-Muslim hate is the new hatred on the far right, and they are rallying around it as a rallying cry. But how do we arrive at defining it and tackling it without veering into supporting blasphemy taboos? But first, according to today's Rich List, more and more people are making their millions from dating apps, video games and social media platforms over traditional business. So I'm asking, with rising inequality, should anyone be worth £1 billion?